One of the trademarks of diabetes is poor circulation. When diabetes appeared in my life, I noticed that my arms and legs would fall asleep when I took a nap or sat still in a way that never used to happen before. Just keeping my legs crossed for 35 minutes or so in church could cause me to get up with a major sleepy, numb foot and leg. I know that everybody has feet or arms that go to sleep occasionally, but this phenomenon is far more pronounced, frequent, and severe for a diabetic. But it is worse than that for most diabetics, far worse. You find that your ankles can swell up terribly at times, or you can end up with permanently puffy toes, feet, ankles, and legs. And that's not a comfortable place to be. It's kind of scary. And worse still is that your toes, feet, and ankles can become discolored, indicating that these parts are not getting enough blood and oxygen. Ugly foot ulcers can develop that never seem to heal. And sometimes your doctor will inform you that you must have a toe or a foot or a leg amputated. What in the world is happening? Your circulation has become severely diminished. When you're in those early 20s and in good health, you never had those problems. Why now? Years and years and even decades of insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and diabetes have caught up with you. And since your feet are in the farthest place from where your heart pumps its life-giving blood to your body, it is the feet, the ankles, and the legs that pay the highest price. Sometimes your toes will tingle. Sometimes you will experience a lot of pain in your feet. And sometimes they will simply become numb. Now, what's the answer? Can this be turned around? Yeah, it can, but not without some dietary and lifestyle changes. There are several action steps for poor circulation that are frequently cited, and they can usually do some good. Taking a baby aspirin or half of an adult aspirin per day can do some good. Aspirin has a blood-thinning effect which will make your blood flow more freely than it otherwise would. Exercise is one of the most potent activities you can do to get your blood flowing freely, but it works better when you do it a little, several times a day, than when you exercise in the morning and then become a computer chair potato or a couch potato until the next morning. Compression socks can help. They're said to mimic the action of walking and force a bit of circulation, even when you don't get a chance to walk so often. Drinking water can make a difference. Your blood is mostly water, but more water intake can thin your blood a bit. Imagine a bowl of heavy cream and then pouring in a lot of water and stirring. That new mixture will be much thinner than the original cream. But the greatest thing you can do for your circulation is to reverse your diabetes and come much closer to normal in your A1C and fasting glucose as a result of low-carb eating, intermittent fasting, and putting an end to all snacking in between meals. Normal people do not get swollen ankles, constantly puffy feet, and foot sores that never healed. Normal people do not get toe, foot, or leg amputations. That dubious distinction is for diabetics and metabolically impaired men and women. But I will say this, even after you get your A1C and fasting glucose in line, you can still suffer from diminished circulation. I know this because I've experienced this. Part of this may be due to age. Circulation generally decreases with age, just like eyesight and running ability, coordination, looks, and nearly everything else. If your blood pressure is still on the high side, it can often be accompanied by swollen feet and ankles. Using a blood pressure med can often reduce swelling. And if you take a blood pressure med that includes a diuretic, feet and ankle swelling can sometimes disappear in a few days. Another factor is physical activity. A 70-year-old is unlikely to be nearly as physically active as he or she was in their 20s. Now, that may not be true for everybody, but it is probably the case for most of us. Now, let me give a little of my own experience in this area. Well, here's where I spend so much of my time every day. I hate to think of how many hours I spend. Not that I mind doing work on the computer. I actually kind of enjoy it. But it is sedentary work and there's not much physical activity. It is kind of an unnatural thing for a human being to sit in a chair like this at a computer for hours upon hours every day. I'm living an unnatural life, at least unnatural by the standards of how men and women lived for the last thousands of years. And so this is not exactly healthy. I've got another computer just across from here in the same room that I use for video editing. So I'm doing writing, I'm doing emails, and all kinds of things on this computer, and then I'm doing video editing on the other. And it is not very natural. It is a sedentary life for sure. And somehow I've got to make up for that by working in some exercise, because otherwise I'm sunk. And the reality is, I just don't have time to go to the gym and spend an hour or two working out. I don't feel like that's what I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't do it. So I've got to somehow make it work here at home. Besides my computer work, I spend quite a bit of time in my recliner in this same room. I bought this chair at a garage sale some years ago, and I've gotten my money's worth out of it for sure. Here I read the Bible, which I do virtually every day, unless I would happen to be extremely sick. And here I have tea and put on some praise music and just talk to the Lord. And here I read some of the books that I share with you, like this Rethinking Diabetes by Gary Taubes, and I've got my red marker pen. I'll read through it and mark different important quotes, and usually I just get a few in because I talk in between the quotes and I end up not really covering as much as I would like to. So once again, this is sedentary activity, but this is part of who I am, and this is part of what I do. I don't apologize for being so sedentary, but somehow I've got to make up for it, and that's why I use an exercise machine and just added a second one. So let's go downstairs now and check out my basic and my primary exercise machine. Here's where I do my morning exercise, and I use this treadmill. This isn't a normal treadmill. This is called an under-desk or walking pad type treadmill. And it is much smaller than a normal treadmill. I used to have the big wide treadmill that had a belt about twice the size of this. And I thought, well, this would be nice for two reasons. Number one, it's a lot cheaper than the bigger treadmills. And number two, it's very portable. You can take it and put it away when you have guests and have more space and more room. So I thought, okay, this ought to work. Problem was, when I got on this and got it up to a decent speed, I wasn't stable. I don't know if it's just because I'm old or what, but I was not stable, and I was tending to amble off one side or the other, and often I would catch myself. I didn't fall, but I wasn't steady on it, and I was about to send it back. And believe it or not, this heavy treadmill, it can be sent back to Amazon. This one could, and I was about to do it. And then I got the idea of using a chair to steady myself, and boom, that took care of it, and I was able to walk with a steady pace and not amble to one side or the other, not go off the treadmill. But that didn't really suit me, so I got this table, and this is a kind of a desk/table that can go up and down, so you can use it sitting or you can raise it up. Has a little motor to it, and you can, so I brought it up so that I can put my hands on it like this, and no problem with steadiness. But this table does one other thing for me, and that is it enables me to use this computer. So I get this computer going, and guess what I do on my computer guess what I do on my computer while I do my treadmill? And that is I watch YouTube videos. Some of them are just silly videos about Andy Griffith's show or something. Others are about diabetes, more serious, of course. But I watch YouTube videos, so I kind of keep up with my YouTube videos that way, and it provides me the motivation to use this treadmill. You know, there's really two things you've got to be able to get in you to win the battle against diabetes. Number one, you got to get the information, the knowledge. Here's where I go. And that's what this channel is all about. But number two, you've got to get the motivation. And the same is true with exercise. You go to garage sales, you find all kinds of exercise equipment being sold looking like it's brand new because they just didn't have the motivation to stick with it. But watching videos enables me to get on this. And usually I just do it 25 minutes. I know I probably should do it longer, but that's about as far as I go these days. But it at least gets me moving, gets my circulation going, and it's working for me. So I think right now I'll turn this on and just give you an example of Dennis Pollock on the treadmill. Don't worry, we're not going to watch 25 minutes of it, but just show you kind of how it works. Now, you may be saying, Dennis, that's not very fast. I thought you'd be jogging on that thing. Well, no, I don't get into the jogging. I just do kind of a moderate walk. I'm an old guy and I'm not out to become an Olympic athlete. I'm just wanting to live out my life with relatively good health and decent circulation. When I learned that it's better to spread your exercise out through the day and not just do exercise in the morning and forget it until the next morning, that's when I got this little device here. It's called a stepper, and it gives you some exercise. Now, I don't spend a lot of time on it, but I try to use this as an in-between exercise. So in between breakfast and lunch, I might do 5 minutes on this just to get things moving. In between lunch and dinner, maybe 5 minutes, and maybe 5 minutes in the evening. I don't always keep up with that schedule, but that is sort of my goal. So it's very simple, and it doesn't take too much. It doesn't take too much effort, and I don't work at it too hard, but I am at least moving, and I'm at least going and circulating and getting my blood circulated. So anyway, this is one of the things I've incorporated into my exercise routine. So used to be only at breakfast or pre-breakfast I would exercise. Now it's pre-breakfast and in between breakfast and lunch and so forth. So I think that's good, and I think you got to keep the blood flowing. You got to keep the circulation going. That's probably true for everybody, but especially true for somebody like me, who is very, very sedentary and has diabetic tendencies. It would be wonderful to think that once you get your A1C down around 5, which is where mine is, you would never have a circulation issue, but I do. Sometimes my ankles get swollen, and I look at that and I know something has to change. And so I have a need in my life to make up for my sedentary lifestyle with some exercise. Do you need more information and inspiration about beating diabetes? The very first line of our description is nearly always a link to our hundreds of videos toward that one subject, how to beat diabetes. Click on that link and start watching these videos. You'll be blessed and I believe greatly helped.